For those of you who haven't seen Box Nation's signing, Romeo Romaeo, and I didn't get that wrong, his name is actually Romeo Romaeo, I would recommend checking him out. He's a very, very interesting individual, let's put it that way. To introduce him, he's a super featherweight who's 5-0, 18 years old. In terms of his build, he looks like he's carved out of stone. Bodybuilder type physique, not an ounce of fat on him. I've looked him up on YouTube, and some of the acrobatics and weightlifting feats that he's capable of as an 18-year-old super featherweight are spectacular. He's also got a very interesting background along with his interesting experience. He spent a large period of time living in the Forest of Dean, educated by his father. I think I saw an interview with him where he said he never had a fizzy drink, never had a bar of chocolate, never had fast food in his life. He's a very extravagant character. He makes his way to the ring extremely exuberantly. I've seen two of his fights at York Hall. First one, he was greeted by a some sort of performing lady who was quoting Romeo and Juliet. Second time, he came out in a red leather jacket, dancing and grinning. He rubbed people up the wrong way. Now, the way he moves around the ring, the only one I can compare him to is perhaps Chris Eubank Jr., in the sense that sometimes he doesn't move like he's being serious. He kind of jogs across the ring, dances across the ring like he thinks it's beneath him, like he sort of joke, and it really does seem to wind the crowd up the wrong way. At present, he's only been in with, let's say, journeyman level opposition. In terms of his record, the last two guys he's been in with on Box Nation, one's been 4-7, one's been 4-17. He's fought only one opponent with a winning record so far, but he's making a lot of noise. He's someone who's going to be in the public eye, and the way he fights and the way he behaves, I could certainly see him being a continued feature on Frank Warren Bills, so we say. In interviews with him, he's very, very confident about being able to deal with a very high level of opposition already. I don't think he's quite there yet. He rushes in too much on opponents. Frank Warren was actually relatively critical with him after the fight at York Hall on the weekend. He said that he needs to find his range a bit more, stop rushing in, stop being so extravagant, and pick his shots nicely. At the minute, he's a bit frantic. At times, because he's so frantic, he becomes a bit hittable, and I question whether a real decent super featherweight, let's say the likes of Mitchell Smith, Liam Wass, Gary Sykes, Stephen Smith, I don't see him as being competitive with that level of opposition just yet. He also makes constant references to how much power he's carrying. At present, that isn't evident from his fights. He doesn't look like a massive puncher despite his claims, and I know he's only 18 years old, so he may well grow into a bit more punching power, but I think he's going to have fights going the distance. With that in mind, he's got to be less worried about blowing opponents out and rushing in, and he's got to box a bit more smartly. There's no doubt that when he throws combinations and with his fitness, he can be a threat and can compete at a certain level. But I think he's someone who's going to be, the British public are going to love to hate, and he's one who I imagine will be making waves for months and years to come before we see him stepped up to a reasonable level of opposition. But I'm keen to hear people's thoughts on this guy. I recommend checking him out on YouTube, and he's certainly one for the future.